Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Push US History online with Mr. E. And today we're going to review Period 4 so that we can work on our Period 4 exam, right? Or sorry, our Period 4 DBQ, which is counted as an exam. All right. So let's get started. Let me quit Teams. Okay. What? I said to quit. Okay, sorry. I literally said quit. Okay. So guys, we're going to review Period 4. It's going to be like the fill in the blank stuff again. Just to help us review. I will delete the pictures when I upload the PowerPoint. I just wanted to go over something, funny with you guys. So when you're taking your AP exam, please don't, break your computer, because then you'd have to retake it in June, right? So don't get frustrated, guys. Just be patient. That's why we're going to practice, because we don't want this stuff to happen, right? We don't want, you to get too frustrated with the online testing, right? But there are, special circumstances. So if your computer stops working, you don't have to do this to it. You can just fill out a request to College Board, and then they'll help you out. Okay, guys. Good, very good. Okay, my favorite is the panda one. Like, that is pretty random. All right, edgy. Just kidding. Okay. So Period 4 review: increased democracy and government relationships. So remember, it's the Federalists against the Democratic Republicans, like the Jeffersonians versus the first two administrations, Washington and Adams. So the first fight we have is Hamilton versus Jefferson. Kind of like today we have Lin-Manuel Miranda from Hamilton doing a master class on the AP College Board website. Oh, I wanted to show you guys. If you don't, I don't know, if my videos are confusing, or sometimes there's errors, guys. Sometimes the sound is messed up. Right? Oh, yeah. So look, remember, I get this stuff from Period4Review.com, right? Just, full disclosure, right? Let's get rid of this ad. Okay, and so then I go to new APUSH curriculum, then I go to AP US History curriculum, period review in 10 minutes. I click on it, and then it's this page, right? And it has, 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 9. Even though our test is only going to go up to 7, right? But you could use stuff from 8 to write your essay. But yeah, check this out, guys. If you look up, let me see. So if you look up AP US History, right? Advanced placement. Look here, guys. So if you look it up, then you can find a playlist for advanced placement from College Board. You click on it, and then boom, you're gonna have like all the videos. The ones I've done, I've been very influenced by these official College Board videos. But you can see they already have Period 6, so there's going to be 2 lessons that we do on Period 6, and then 3 lessons on Period 7. So they're already done with Period 7, right? I like this guy. They take turns, right? He does more of the practice stuff, right? And then Miss
Good morning. Happy Friday Eve or happy Thursday.
Fair, she does more of a just lecture based. She does have some questions, but she doesn't really practice skills as much as Mr. What's his name?
Changes. Today we are going to wrap up with the content review. The way May the
Where's his name?
wrap up the course.
Usually puts his name. Oh yeah, Mr. Horton. Horton, here's a who.
I'll actually throw some questions
okay, cool. So now you know, right? The master class with
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm
Lin-Manuel
with the
is
College
recorded.
Later.
Wow,
And
he
I remember
did
thinking,
not
well,
try
that's the most avoidable
to dress up.
mistake of all
That's okay.
time.
He's an actor.
How does that?
He's cool, I guess. Wow, his beard is out of control. Okay, it's a very bold move. But let's get back to our review. Okay, now you know my secrets. Now you know my secrets. Okay. Democrats and so two parties will eventually go toe-to-toe during the era of good feelings. After the era of good feelings. The Democrats versus the Whigs, right? So for a while, during the era of good feelings, after the War of 1812, there's going to be only one party, the Democratic Republicans. So Democrats versus Whigs will emerge after the era of good feelings is over, right? So by 1820, then the Whig Party will emerge. And they're kind of like out of the ashes of the Federalists. So Jackson versus Clay, that'll emerge. Clay, poor guy, he ran for president 4 times and he lost every time. But Clay will challenge Jackson in the legislative branch, right? Supreme Court's going to increase the power of the federal government, right? McCulloch versus Maryland, Worcester versus Georgia, where they ignore the decision to help the Native Americans. Growth of the market economy increases debates of the government. Often people who are loyal to the region, not the nation, right? So people are going to be loyal to the South, people are going to be loyal to the North, people are going to be loyal to the West, and that's going to lead to sectional tension, and it's going to lead, so instead of thinking about the whole country and everyone, they just think about their region, and that's what is going to be a factor for the Civil War. So Embargo Act of 1807, that's passed out by Thomas Jefferson. It's going to be pretty bad for our economy since we're technically not going to trade with any other country. And then the nullification crisis, that's a huge deal. Nullification crisis is going to take place in South Carolina in response to the Tariff of Abominations, right? And so that's going to challenge, okay, can states just ignore the federal government laws? Can they nullify them? And the answer is no. But then in the Civil War, they are gonna do that anyway. They're gonna break away from the Union. So that'll be the toughest challenge that our country ever faces with. The South identified with slavery, right? Instead of it as it shifts. So at first, like in the late 1700s, early 1800s, they're gonna say, oh, it's a necessary evil. Here they're gonna say, oh, actually, it's a positive good. Thanks a lot, John C. Calhoun, you racist senator guy who is the vice president for Jackson. Okay, so got into those guys. Second Great Awakening. In period 4, that's huge. The Second Great Awakening is another religious movement, just like the First Great Awakening. And people were striving for something new. They wanted like perfection. So it wasn't like kind of like the First Great Awakening where it had ideals about freedom and challenging authority and like kind of like going hand in hand with the Enlightenment. Second Great Awakening is going to inspire a lot of reform movements, the abolitionist movement, the women's rights movement, and the temperance movement, education reform, mental health care reform, all those things, okay? With Dorothea Dix, and then mental health care, asylum reform, and then Horace Mann with education reform, right? So Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton will be helping out with women's rights, and for abolitionism we'll have like Frederick Douglass and we'll keep going with that. All right, various emancipation plans. American Colonization Society. Whoa, let's just send African people back to Africa. That was a horribly racist idea, but Andrew Jackson loved it, and if he likes an idea, you're going to start to question whether it's good or not. It was a horrible idea. All right. Picture pops up. Resistance to democracy included pro-slavery arguments. Slavery is a positive good. Xenophobia. Look at this. Fillmore and Donaldson, National Union. This is the Know-Nothing Party. I know nothing but my country, my whole country, and nothing but my country. So they're racist, guys. They're going to lead to the KKK later. So they hate foreigners, discrimination against Irish, discrimination against Germans, anti-black sentiment in the South, minstrel shows, people would dress up in blackface. It was really racist. Restrictive anti-Indian policies, Indian Removal Act, Trail of Tears. So on the one hand, we have good reform movements, but on the other hand, we have the opposite side, and this is going to be resistance to democracy, guys. So democracy grows, more people get the right to vote. Like, you don't have to be rich to vote anymore. Like, poor white guys could vote. But then, we have all these bad things too. Okay, so for every one side, there's another side. Whoa. What's going on here? Okay. Emergence of new cultures. So yeah, this is all the cultural stuff, guys. See if it disappears. Well, it kind of does. Go back a little bit. Okay, so this is going to be the Hudson River School, landscape paintings, So, you know, this is the culture that emerges in period 4 and the era of good feelings. Just Hudson River, it's nature, right? So they're going to paint like landscapes and forests and rivers and stuff. There's going to be some religious groups like the Shakers who believed in being celibate. They didn't want to have any sexual activity. But they did believe in sexual equality, like men and women are equal. They just danced. They didn't, you know, have romantic relationships. Dancing was all they needed, guys. Mormons moved to Utah to seek religious refuge because the Mormons, they're still a big, you know, they're the guys that ride around on the bikes with the white shirts and the ties to spread the news about the Book of Mormon. But they were discriminated against heavily in the East Coast, guys, and they were terrorized and beat up and assassinated and stuff like. So women, they host the Seneca Falls Convention, and they have the Declaration of Sentiments, which is modeled after the Declaration of Independence, except they say all women and men are created equal, because they're trying to take a stand, right? And their women's rights movement took off from their work in abolitionism, right? So they're gonna try to help African Americans get the right to vote. Nat Turner's Rebellion was huge, guys. That is a very violent, and they had a movie on it. I showed you the trailer in class. The Birth of a Nation, not the KKK version, but the new one from a couple years ago. Good. Changes in agriculture and manufacturing. Right, so we have the market revolution in period 4, guys. So we're going to have textile machines. We're going to have the steam engines to power factories. We're going to have interchangeable parts. Okay, Eli Whitney, mass production of goods. That's going to change everything, guys. We're going to start to have a market economy where we work for wages, and that's going to be huge. People are going to work for wages now instead of their market price. So also transportation revolution, canals, railroads, telegraphs, new agricultural inventions, okay, mass production, guys. The Lowell system, part of this market revolution. Farmer daughters, they're going to work and live out at the factories, guys. And they're going to, you know, work long hours, 16-hour days. Crazy stuff. A lot of stuff, guys. Okay. Regional specialization. Okay, so the South is going to focus on agriculture. The North is going to focus on manufacturing, right? So textile production. They're going to keep depleting the land of its nutrients because they don't know how to farm correctly and rotate crops, and so they'll keep moving west. Okay, they're trying to make a unified national economy, right? The North and the South will be interconnected, but it's gonna kind of be divided, right? So the North and the Midwest and the West are going to be linked. The South is just going to be self-contained, right? So here's Henry Clay. He came up with something very important, guys. The 3 parts of the American system. We'll draw an arrow. Let's draw this arrow. Boom. Oh, look at that great arrow. Okay, so this is the American system. Okay, the number 1, Bank of the United States. Number 2, tariffs. And number 3, internal improvements. Gotta know them. Okay. Andrew Jackson was not a Whig Party member, so he hated all these 3. He especially hated the Bank of the U.S. He let it expire, which causes the economic panic of 1837. There was another economic panic, another depression in 1819, just dealing with over-speculation. People were just like investing and getting loans from the banks, which got Andrew Jackson kind of paranoid. He's like, people borrow money from the banks and they invest and then they lose all the money and it hurts the economy, and that just helps rich people. So the Panic of 1819, ironically, leads to the Panic of 1837 in a kind of tangential way, right? So the tariffs are they like tariffs. Tariffs help the North. Tariffs help the manufacturing centers. Internal improvements just to helping build roads and bridges and stuff. So slaves and Native Americans are going to come into the nation. They're going to be moving around. Natives will move to the west. Slaves will be moved around in the south. Okay. So cotton is going to deplete the land of soil. They're going to continue to move west. So it's all connected, guys. New labor systems emerge. Okay, we're going to have low-skilled labor working in factories, and then so we're going to have the emergence of unions, and the unions will be made legal with Commonwealth versus Hunt in 1837. That might be a case you need for GoPo, and then that test you'll take first, then A-push. So you'll take it on the 11th, A-push is on the 15th. Impacts of the market revolution. Oh yeah. So, okay. So canals and roads help propel us toward the west and fueled manifest destiny. European immigrants are going to come in. The Irish are going to settle in the eastern towns like New York City, Boston. Germans, they're more skilled laborers, and they had like crafts. They're going to settle in the Midwest as farmers. Why did they leave Europe? Well, economic hardships, too crowded, don't make as much money in Europe. So the potato famine affected the Irish and the Germans. They both love potatoes. This helps increase interdependence between the Northeast and the Old Northwest, right? So just these huge immigrant groups are going to connect those two regions. Yep. Impacts of the market revolution continued. Ooh, all this stuff. So South remained distinctly different from other regions. They relied on cotton to make money, right? So the South is going to be continually isolated from the North and the Midwest and the West. The market revolution is going to increase the gap between the rich and the poor, which will propel into period 5 and period 6. As we industrialize more and more, we have the people who will control the means of production and people who are the laborers, right? And they're going to be huge economic, like for instance, Jeff Bezos. He's the richest man in the world. During this quarantine, guys, he made like another $44 billion magically while people are struggling without having any jobs. And, you know, the billionaires are getting more and more billions. And when the gap between the rich and the poor is still growing today, guys. Separation between home and workplace. More goods were produced outside the home. Women and girls are going to start to work in the factories to help their families. Slavery. Tension is going to continue for the issue of slavery, guys. You know, the issue between states' rights and the role of the federal government. So, National Bank, the South hated the National Bank. They just thought that it was servicing the North and servicing factories and rich people. Andrew Jackson hated the Bank of the United States. Tariffs favor the North, disliked in the South. Okay, internal improvements, right? That's another thing. Pay for railroads, pay for canals, pay for roads. Go out to the West. The West loved it. The West loved internal improvements because it's going to help make it cheaper and easier to get to the West. So Henry Clay came up with that idea. Okay. Oh. So Western Hemisphere, the way we're moving west, we're going to have a lot of chances to expand in the Western Hemisphere and get some connections in Asia, like the open door policy. Negotiating the Oregon border. 5440 or fight. And instead of 5440, we settled for the 49th parallel. But that 5440 or fight was kind of like James K. Polk's campaign slogan of like "Make America Great Again," and everyone loved it. They're like 5440 or fight, right? And 5440 was like way up here, but we settled for the 49th parallel, which is right here, right? Yay! Oh god! Annexation of Texas. It's going to make Mexico mad, and we're going to go to war with Mexico. But that's okay. That's part of the plan. So we can take, you know, like 66% of Mexico's land from Mexico. Yeah, taking Texas, taking Mexico away from Mexico. Monroe Doctrine. Okay. Whoa, what the? Monroe magically is, I don't know, he's yelling to them. He's saying, hey, you guys, you European guys, stay out of the Western Hemisphere, okay? Monroe told Europe, the East, to stay out of the West. Stay out of here, okay? Back off, okay? Expansion and its effects. Oh God, he's scary looking, but that's John C. Calhoun. He was a really racist, pro-slavery guy from the South. Okay, debates about new territories, slave versus non-slave areas, usually in alternating fashion. Resistance to increasing power of the federal government. Yeah, so like the pro-slavery southern region is going to be like, well, the federal government's getting too powerful. So the Hartford Convention, this is what destroys the Federalist Party, guys. They were like, wow, the War of 1812 sucks. Thanks a lot, Thomas Jefferson, you Democratic Republican. And some of them were like, dude, let's break away, let's secede. And so that made them, and then we won the war, or we tied the War of 1812. So that made the Federalists look like a bunch of traitors, and so that destroyed the Federalist Party, guys, this Hartford Convention. Hartford. Nullification crisis. Issues over tariffs. South Carolina was going to nullify the tariff of 1828 and 1832, the tariff of abominations. Was it the 1828 one? The 1832 one actually lowered the tariffs, but they were like, we hate it, because they weren't listening anymore. So John C. Calhoun was like, yeah, good, you can nullify stuff. And Andrew Jackson was like, bro, you're the vice president, are you crazy? And then Andrew Jackson wanted to assassinate his vice president. He wanted to murder him. Those living on the frontier advocated for expansion, the Warhawks. They were like, okay, let's fight Mexico. Let's fight with the natives. This is America, guys. God gave us the right to move west and spread Christianity and spread all the Western ideals. Who cares about what religion the Mexicans have? They had Christianity. And what the natives had. They had a monotheistic religion very similar to Christianity. Okay. Indian removal. Well, they're going to take your land. Cherokees, we found gold here, so we're going to move you to Oklahoma, where there's nothing pretty. There's no forests or trees or mountains. It's all flat and grassland. Yay! Just go. Even though you won your Supreme Court case, Worcester versus Georgia, we're going to ignore that court case, and we're just going to move you anyway. Wow, that is illegal, but we're doing it anyway. The Seminoles, they kept fighting. They were hardcore, but eventually they lose, and then we send them over. Okay. Trail of Tears. Tens and tens of thousands of Native Americans are gonna, perish. Ooh, what time is it? Let's check how much time we have on the clock. Okay, we got some time. Expansion and slavery, Missouri Compromise, 3 parts. So, Compromise of 1820, 3 parts. Above the line is free, below the line is slave. Missouri, oh, this is wrong. Missouri is going to be slave. Oops, I made an error. And Maine is going to be free, because Maine's in the north, if we look at the map. So Maine's over here, right? It's free. And Missouri's over here. Even though it's above the line, I know that's confusing. This is the 3630 line. This is going to be slave, right? Missouri would be slave, wouldn't it? Eventually, the compromise broke down with the Compromise of 1850 and the Kansas-Nebraska Act. So that's period 5. Overcultivation of land in the Southwest led to expansion, right? So they're going to just use the land too much and all the vitamins get depleted. And then crops don't grow anymore and they have to keep moving west and fight with the natives. And tension over slavery is going to keep increasing. Make sure you know all these